Okay, thank you. Good morning, Dean, Vice Dean, heads of department. I want to appreciate the Dean for allowing the anchoring of this program, the Vice Dean for moderating from the distance. I'm aware that the Dean and the Vice Dean are in Lagos. We want to acknowledge all our resource persons. We have several of them speaking from outside of Ile-Ife and outside the country in a different time zone. So Professor Clement Adeboye, we thank you very much. We also thank other resource persons. Mine is to give some brief updates about the concept notes processing. The number one challenge is there is a mix-up in the thematic areas. We have almost 3 versions of the thematic areas are circulated from Third Fund Abuja. So meaning that we need to be very careful about how we choose the thematic areas. The numbers are all juggled up. We have 28 thematic areas, but the 3 versions gave different numbering to different thematic areas. For example, in one version, agriculture and food security is number 1 thematic area. In another version, agriculture and food security is number 12. So what is the solution to this? During the upload, there is a drop-down menu or a dialog box where we can select the most appropriate thematic area. And why is this important? We pray that we do not choose the wrong number or the wrong thematic area, because this will guide the allocation of our concept notes to assessors. So let's be mindful of this, that at the portal, we can select the most appropriate. If it is food security, we just click on it and select. And I think that is the solution. So let's watch out for this. So that is the first update. The second one is that the feedback are trickling in. Hopefully within the next 24 hours, all of us may have received the feedback. And this is also carefully timed with this webinar, so that we look at the corrections or the suggestions pointed out during the reviews. And they will also leverage on the presentations of today for agricultural R&D, so that we make very sound proposals. Generally, from the ones that have been reviewed before now, there is a common challenge with thematic, with a theoretical framework. So we need to watch out for this. And we have pleaded with our speakers to really lay emphasis and provide extra clarifications on this. And then there are challenges too with compliance with the rules provided by Third Fund, as well as project impact. So I hope that this forum will provide extra opportunities for us to review all this and do much better concept notes for submission. So these are all the updates I have for now. So I want to thank Professor Shonaya again for the motivation and for the network that is hosting this event. So thank you and enjoy all the presentations. God bless the faculty. Thank you. Vice Dean. Hello. So we can continue now. The next on the list is Professor E.B. Shonaya's presentation. So, Prof. Sir.
Thank you, Professor Oseni. Good morning to everyone. I have unmuted, but I don't know if you are hearing me.
We are hearing you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I will now share my slides. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I've been asked to interact with us on philosophy of concept note development for research proposals in the fields of agriculture. And I thought I should put it in the context of choosing a research theme. There are some points that I would encourage us to note. First, that agriculture is an applied science, that agricultural research is to lead to agricultural development, that is, more income for more people engaged in agriculture, that agricultural research assumes that agriculture is a business, not just a way of life, that people engaged in various aspects of agriculture as a business are active in the various agricultural value chains. And so I'll put up the agricultural value chain from inputs to production to value addition to trade to markets and so on. So your research theme must be focused on specific actors in a specific value chain. For example, smallholder producers, smallholder processors, smallholder traders, or big holders in the cassava or chicken value chain, etc. So this is the agricultural value chain with its challenges and opportunities. We have problems with inputs, low quality, irregular supply, with production, excess or no labor, low technology. We have problems with value addition, with trade, and with markets. But these challenges are also opportunities. And you can see the opportunities are written in gold. So for inputs, timely delivery of high quality inputs will fetch sufficient income and profit. Appropriate production technology, efficient industrial and micro, small, medium processes, adequate storage and transport facilities, real-time and futures markets. These are issues that should engage our research. But the agricultural chain can also be looked upon in terms of services. So we can think of value chain services like storage, transport, processing, packaging, trading, marketing, or even policy actions and support services, such as standardization, quality control mechanism, credit, conventions and agreements that are important in agriculture. So we look from harvested produce through the market to the processors. So the question is, how do we choose a research theme? And I think we can balance between the left side and the right side. The left side is justification, and the right side is the theory of change. The first justification, who are the clients for the research? Who are the value chain actors targeted? And the theory of change is, what benefit will the research bring to these actors? What is the problem to be solved? In which locality? What policy or practice? What impact will the research make? What are the current practices and policies? How and where does the research move forward the field? What new thinking, innovation is needed? After a literature search or policy review, is the research original in concept, theory, methodology? So from that, we can derive research questions, hypotheses, and variables. The questions, why, what, when. The hypothesis is a prediction of what the study will find and which can be verified by observation or experiment. In other words, the hypothesis is testable. The variable, it could be dependent variable or independent variable. The dependent variable relies on the independent variable to occur. Independent variable is manipulated to influence the dependent variable. And finally, preliminary data. It's important to collect some preliminary data to show that the theme is needed, is realistic, and is feasible. The preliminary data will also show that you or your team can successfully do the proposed work now. The data will also convince your peers, that's the rest of us in your department or in your faculty, and later the reviewers, that your hypothesis can and should be tested with funds as and when calls for concept notes and proposals are received. So with that, you can now write concept notes and full proposals based on the chosen research theme. One research theme can suffice for many years and many grants, or even for your entire career. I think once we have this clarity, it helps us in moving forward. And I want to thank you and wish you success in your grant seeking and a career full of grants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
So, thank you very much, sir. Dr. Ayinde, is Dr. Ayinde around? So we'll move on to the next speaker, please. Professor Ayonwale from the AEC perspective now and guidance. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I hope I'm unmuted.
Yes, we are hearing you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for the privilege to be here, and I want to thank Professor Shunaya for that stimulating. That was very well, nothing less is actually expected of him, of a leader of his status, sir. So thank you, sir. Now let me just share my screen. My God. I hope I'm being seen.
Yes, sir. We are seeing you.
Okay, is
sir.
my screen seen now?
Not
Not
yet.
yet. Okay. Let me. Okay. I think it should be. I hope my screen is seen now.
You mean the slide, sir?
Not yet, sir.
Wow.
Not yet. Share your screen and put on your slide.
I'm putting on my slide.
Share your screen.
I did share screen.
Share your screen.
There's
Okay.
the share screen button. Share screen button. The green button, sir.
Okay,
The green button.
That's what
Down.
I'm trying to do. Okay.
Yes. That's, so click on share screen, the green button or the
Okay.
lower
I've done
panel.
that.
Okay.
Then put up your slide.
Then open the slides to your screen, sir.
Okay. I think it's on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Yes, sir. Please, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Continue. Okay. So I have been tasked to share concept notes development in agricultural research and development in from the perspective of agricultural economics. Now the outline is we want to look at concept note. Why concept note? The advantages and disadvantages of concept note, the size, and then tips for winning concept notes. Well, the concept note is essentially a brief summary which discusses the ideas regarding the projects being proposed and the objectives that it is aiming to achieve. It's a brief discussion of the highlights of the projects being developed. It's a means of discussing the project ideas which will be donors who have no time and not enough patience or interest in listening, but they want the main points to be condensed. So in essence, the concept note is supposed to be sharp and smart.
Continue, sir.
Documents. Now, advantages.
There's a challenge with audio, sir. So, hello, Prof. Are you still on, sir? Hello, sir. Professor Ayinde?
Yes.
Yes, sir. The audio went off. So can you just try again, sir?
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I guess it's the network problem.
Yes, sir.
Am I still on in the sharing of the screen?
You can try the sharing again, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
I think it should be on now.
Yes, it's on, sir.
Okay, thank you. So I said the concept notes, it helps the donor assess whether or not the project align with its funding priorities and enables them to suggest to the applicant before the submission of the full proposal. It's actually what helps the applicants develop more competitive proposals. When you have the opportunity of presenting concept notes, then you have the opportunity of really packaging the proposal in a winning goal. However, sorry. Okay. The concept note costs time and money. It demands documents, which I remember, if you recollect, Professor Shunaya told us you should have some data with which you are going to convince your peers and your funding agency. That is not cheap. It's something that's we call with some cost of time and money. But when you look at, when you are able to package it well and you do it in a proper way, when the money that comes, the fund that comes will justify the amount of resources that we have committed into it. So concept notes are generally binding documents. Sometimes the ideas can be changed. When you submit concept notes, they may suggest to you, put it this way, put it that way, but it's not a guarantee that the proposal will be taken. Now, what are the issues about these current concept notes? Like we said, that we noted before, the maximum is 1,500 words. And when you look at the various issues that we want to discuss, that means that one has to be very, very sharp. So the title has to be snappy. The title has to be very aggressive, yet fun and exciting. It should impress upon your audience the right image and the content of your concept note. It should not be more than 20 words, like as put in the current concept. Then the thematic area, the director has mentioned about the thematic area. We need to be careful. The one that I had 3 categories, okay? The first category, science, engineering, technology, and innovation. And the second one, the third one, cross-cutting. And I believe Faculty of Agriculture can participate in either of the 2 categories. We should, in definition of the research problems, we should note, why is it important to address the problem identified in the study? What means have already been conducted to try to solve the problem? So that while keeping the thematic area in mind, we want to look at why it is important to address the problem and what have been done so far. Those are things that I think is very important for us. Then, in terms of the content, we want to look at, when you look at the statement of the problem and research questions, we need to state clearly the problems to be addressed by the research projects leading to research questions. Then, in terms of the objective, we should provide summary of short and long-term objectives of the projects. That is, indicate clearly the problems the project will help to address. And we have been advised that the literature review should be brief. As brief as it is, the issue I think about the literature review has to be the currency. It has to be current, and it has to be thorough. In other words, if you are not current, I mean, what you are discussing might have been done before. But if you are current, then you will be at the frontier, and then you'll be able to discuss what value you really want to address. Then, as regards the theoretical framework, the research, we should situate our research in the knowledge space. That is, we should look at the theory, a theory to drive our work. For example, in agricultural economics, you want to look at the supply theory, or you want to look at value chain, or supply chain, agricultural supply chain, or marketing, when you talk about the law of one price. Okay, those are theory. The theory that you hinge your work on will eventually first determine the method you are going to use and determine the outcome that you are going to get from it. If the theory is not really sound, it becomes difficult even to convince your peers, because your peers will it's one of the things that you are going to really use to drive your purpose. And for development projects like this, a sustainable livelihood framework is another theory that is being used generally. Then research problem, you want the research methodology. You want to look at the research approach and the who and what methods you really want to use to achieve the objectives that have been highlighted. Then innovation. The innovation talks about what new things are you bringing on the project. For example, you want to look at supply chain. In what way will the project that you want to do be able to the scope of the supply chain? Then expected project impacts. You want to now bring it down home to look at what are the long-term and short-term impacts, effects of the projects. So sometimes, in projects, they want to ask for value for money. value for money. They want to look at, okay, now if you are going to take 50 million and you are going to spend it on only 500 farmers, then you want to ask the question, if will it be worth the while? But so we need to balance the things so that I can. Then the technical competence of the team for this current team, I think what we have been advised to do is to let it be multidisciplinary, let it be national, let the team be competent. In other words, I believe that the team that we have should be composed of people who are knowledgeable, sufficiently enough to be respected by their peers. Okay. Then I also I now said, okay, what are the tips? Because generally, what are those things that you want to advise so that we can win with the concept notes? Well, I said, for example, the title should be snappy, the title should be informative, should be distinctive, and the projects generally, when it comes to development projects, you have the ultimate goal, the global goal, you have the national goal, and then you have the local development. All this should dovetail, so that when we are justifying our title, when you are justifying our work, it should link up. For example, you want to do what does the work that you want to do have to do with sustainable development goals? Which of the sustainable development goals will your project address? It should, because it is from that the national development, economic recovery and growth plan, it is from that that one is derived, and from the national economic recovery and development goal, then you now have your local projects. So if you can justify that, then it becomes easy for them to say, okay, because this money is coming from the nation, and they have to justify the release of that money with those goals. If the project is not going to address the goal, it may be difficult for them to do that. Then objective, you should make the objective smart. They say it should be specific, should be measurable, should be achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Should be smart. Then the outputs that we do should be related to the project objectives. It should be tangible, and that could be intangible. For example, you want to raise awareness. That's an intangible output. You want to raise an awareness about a particular product. It's an intangible output. And then finally, the budget has to be realistic. I talked about value for money. If you want to do just a project in a state and you are looking at just 500 farmers, and then you want to collect 50 million naira, then they want to look at how, even if they distribute that money to the farmers, wouldn't it be better than to say that you want to do something? So it should be realistic. You should balance the whole scope. And like he said, I believe if we take care of all these areas, then I think we will be able to have a winning concept notes. I wish us the very best. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Ayowale. Is the Vice Dean on? So the Dean, sir, please permit me to introduce the Executive Director of the Central Office of Research, who is also attending this forum. So Professor Additional, sir. Good morning, sir. Oh, maybe it's muted. So we recognize you, sir. So the next speaker is Professor O.C. Adeboye from the CPP Dimension, please. Thank you.
Wow. Where am I? Okay, I'm here. What did I do to myself? Yes. Good morning. Wow. Where am I?
Switch to Professor Adeboye. Tosin. Tosin. change the screen to Professor Adeboye's. So, Prof, you are on.
Hello.
Yes, Professor O.C. Adeboye, you are on, please. Hello. Maybe to save time, we can move to the next presenter, then come back to him after, if that is all right. Is the dean online?
Hello? Hello, I'm online, sir.
Okay. So it appears there's a technical hitch with Professor Adeboye's presentation.
Okay. Maybe we should move to the next discussant and then come back to him after.
Yes, please do. The next is Professor
Ayinde.
So 10 minutes.
Yes, 10 minutes.
You are on, sir.
Thank you.
So you are on, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, the topic is development of concept node for agricultural research and development from an extension perspective. The first that is the outline. What is concept node? It is a brief summary of our full proposal. And that is why for us to write a successful or a good concept note, we must have a proposal, a full proposal somewhere, and then we give the summary. What is the purpose? The purpose is for presentation of problem-solving tools and activities for approval of funding. And when I have 3 tools identified, the research plan that's proposed as the first purpose of concept note, the project blueprint, and then it could be used for presentation of teaching plan. And what is the uses for seeking grants, for research, project intervention, and thesis writing. So it is our responsibility to choose the relevant The one that is relevant to us among the three. But for what we are writing now, our own is research problem. So for us to understand the philosophy behind concept note or how to write it very well, we must understand what I call the problem-solving world. And it consists of three actors: the funder or the sponsor, the person writing the concept note or the grant seeker, and then the other stakeholders. These three parties, they are very important, and the understanding of their role and responsibility is very, very important. Something is at stake when we're talking of problem-solving world. And there are some people, what is at stake is the problem that the research want to solve. And then some people must be ready to commit their resources. And that is the first person is the funder or the sponsor of research. And so we have the National Research Fund available for us now to write our concept note. Now, the other person that is taking is the writer. He needs to provide his technical competence and his knowledge, human knowledge, to write a good and befitting proposal. And then there must be a meeting point between these two parties, the three parties. Then know the actors by their respective roles and features. Funder make fund available and ensure judicious use, while seeker make knowledge available. And the others, they are either collaborators, providing other resources, and then government providing policy, and then the target beneficiaries. They are also part of this problem solving, providing information, enabling environment, and then acceptance of the team. What are the basic features of the funder? They have concern. The first one is solving problem for development and gratification. Gratification in this sense, the NRF fund is for the development, and government will put it on record that they are providing fund for higher institutions in Nigeria. And so it's part of their role of government in providing research fund. They also have focus. The focus is making fund available and ensure judicious use. For any sponsor, that one is very crucial for them. They want to ensure the judicious use of that fund. Then the goal is improving the socioeconomic condition of the people, of the target audience. What are the strategies? Research, project intervention, or thesis intervention. So, concept notes will also be always be based on strategy. Then objective to be carried out for the attainment of the goal. It must be specific, good enough, explicit enough, clear enough to identify the activities right from onset. And then what are the expected results? The funder is expecting some results, which can be categorized into three. The deliverables, four, deliverables, output, outcome, and impact. Ditto for seeker is also having something related, almost the same thing as concern or basic features. This is important. The two parties, their features, their characteristics must meet at a point, must be able to align. If not, the understanding of the funder, by the seeker, or the sponsor what the seeker has put on paper by the sponsor will be very difficult. So the two parties' features and characteristics must align. We must ensure that we put that one in place. The other stakeholders have talked about them. And then the interlink, we must understand the interlink and the meeting points. Because the funder has a unique world and features, criteria are set, basic elements are identified, template is given for compliance by for the writers. So that is the state in which we find ourselves now. We have been given the basic element, the criteria, the guiding rules, and so on and so forth, which we must comply. Therefore, we must have a deep knowledge of funders' world and features, identify and understand the criteria set, which must be of national in spread. It must be of national interest, and then it must be of national concern. Note the template and basic element to follow step in research process. Everything we are saying is based on research process step. We must know those things and follow it to letter. And lastly, understand the matching model and apply without compromising quality. The matching model is concerned about matching the basic feature of the seeker with that of the funder to become one entity in thought, that is in planning, execution, monitoring, and evaluation of the research plan, and then the organization of the plan. The output and the outcomes of matching must also meet the interest, expectations, support goal, and culture of the other stakeholders. So it's important that we realize that when we are talking about the target beneficiary, for example, if our research team or the problem we are investigating or any materials we are taking to that culture is against their belief system, we may run into a crisis or problem. So we must build all those things into our plan. And their own interest too must be also protected, and their expectation in terms of support.
2 minutes more, sir.
So,
hello, sir. 2 minutes more, sir.
Thank you. So the basic element is the first one is research team, which must be maximum of 20 words. The team must be catchy enough. It must be researchable and testable. Then the introduction, we need to give background information of the antecedents in relation to the current situation. The problem itself, we need to define it. How do we do that? State of difficulties or knowledge gap to be removed. Objective, we have main and specific, and that one must be stated clearly to spell out the activities to be carried out. Then research questions and objective. They're almost the same thing. In our own department, we make use of objective instead of research questions. But the two has been requested by the NRF, which must comply with that. Research methodology is description of the plan of execution, monitoring, and evaluation. The study area, the population sample, sample frame sampling techniques must be stated. Data and measuring scales of measurement, data instrument must be mentioned. Test of instrument validity, reliability, and ethical issues must be resolved because we are dealing with people. And so the people must give their consent that we must make provision for that by linking up with the necessary institution in charge of that in the country. Then type of research, data collection method and plan. And then we must state the data analysis method and statistical tools. The expected results, I've said that it could be categorized into deliverable, tangible things, items, like reports, equipment, animal pens, and so on and so forth. Output, as in terms of findings, then the outcome, immediate effect of the research, and the long-term effect of the research is what we call the impact. So NRF put everything together. So we give the summary of the 3 or 4 in our expected result. Then the innovation is in terms of creativity, strategy, technology, and effect on the people. And the last one is the effect could be in terms of policy modification, creation of new bonds and networks between actors, and then the budget. The budgets must be realistic. So we have differences in other funding agencies and NRF, but each sponsor, they have their criteria and regulation, and they have their goal, and they do everything. But let me quickly mention that it's important that we also think of the sustainability plan of our research in our plan. And then the risk also, because international organizations, from my own experience, will ask for your previous participation to measure your competency in that area. And then the monitoring and evaluation plan is critical and demanded. And I believe the university will step in that regard to ensure monitoring and evaluation of the various studies. Then the sustainability plan is led for individual, team, the faculty, and the university to resolve. For now, I will stop. I want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much. So we have the next speaker, Vice Dean. Please continue. Hello, Vice Dean. Okay, the next speaker now, Professor DJ. Please, you have the floor, sir. Tosin, take the screen to Professor Ayinde, please. Okay.
Can I be heard now?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I want to appreciate you for giving me this opportunity to talk about a concept note about the experiences that I have in experiences in soil science. A lot of people have, I want to appreciate Professor Shunaya for giving us a synopsis of the whole, what concept note is, and what things we need to in the concept. Also for the previous speakers, Professor Ayinde and Professor Ayinde, what I will be doing is just to fill up the gaps. I don't have a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. Like I said, when I looked at my position in the presentation, I found out that most of the things I've said would have been said, and I don't want to repeat, but I will just point out some areas which I will need to emphasize on in writing our concept notes. Number one, as what a concept note is has already been described. But I just want to emphasize to us that the essence of asking for a concept note is to weeding out. When you have a lot of proposals coming in and having to go through all the proposals will be very difficult and laborious. The concept of concept note is to have proposals, pre-proposals, through which you can look at those ones that are promising, those ones that have potentials, and now from the summary of the proposal, then you can check which ones have potentials for success. So that means that in doing this, we must be able to summarize everything we want to do in, we have been given 1,500 words. And that means that we have to identify areas we have to lay emphasis on. Number one is the title. The title must be very short and at the same time informative, so that whoever sees the title already knows what you are planning to do. That's the essence of the title. From the title, you can know what the project, the proposal is about. Then also in the background to the research, we need to identify what are the problems that the proposal will be addressing. And now we are writing a proposal for agriculture. In what aspect of the agricultural value chain are we targeting? And what are the, how does it align with the national development? If we are writing a proposal, we must first look at what is the agency calling for the proposal, the body calling for the proposal. Our proposal must align to their objectives. Now we are talking about the NRF and also about the national, that's Nigeria. So we look at what is the Nigerian economic area, then what is the national agricultural, what do you call the plan, the national plan for agriculture. Then what are those areas in which our proposal can also fit in? And also we can look at the global, the SDG. What are the SDG objectives? In what area will our proposal fit into these SDG objectives? We have 17 of them, and which are broken into other specific areas. Also, our literature review. We must be, what is the state of knowledge in the field of study? So we have to use up-to-date literature. What are the latest developments in that area? What are the latest tools that are being used in the area for study to address what we are looking at into? Because our colleagues in this area are going to look at our proposal, our concept note. And if we are looking at, if we are using methods, we are using methods that are outdated, this will not enhance, will be a negative, a minus to our proposal. Then our problem statement or research questions. Our research questions must be brief and straight to the point. In our problem statement, we must be able to clearly highlight what are the challenges that this concept note, our proposal will be addressing. Then also in terms of our research objectives, it must be clear, focus, and also align to our objectives and our methodologies. Each of the objectives we highlight must be linked to when we get to the research. Our methodology must be clearly seen to be addressed by the methodology we're going to use. And we don't have to, in doing this, we don't have to be too over-ambitious. We must avoid being over-ambitious, otherwise we have, it will be clearly seen that we are just writing something for the writing sake. So our methodology, our objectives must be concise and something that is doable, something that is achievable within the scope of 2 years. And another area that is very important that we have to look at is the what is the theoretical framework? What are the theoretical framework? What are the theories underpinning the study that we want to embark on? In soil science, we can look, depending on the, what we are studying. Are we studying, is this soil fertility? How does this relate to the late Biggs theory? Are we studying law? I mean, soil water. We can look at Desi's theory of water flow. We can look at fixed law of diffusion. All this. How does our study? How can we use this one to underpin? Because our colleagues, if we use established theories, then colleagues who we review this concept know, will know that we know what we are discussing. So we must be able to clearly highlight the theories, established theories in soil science, or whatever area field we are working on, that clearly underpin our study. Then in setting out our methodology, it must be concise, because we don't really have the Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you, sir.
Okay. I see. I saw something. Okay. I was talking about methodology, that our methodologies must be very clear and linked to objectives. If we have maybe 5 objectives, all these objectives, how they be achieved, must be clearly seen in the methodologies we draw out. And in the area like soil science, our experimental design must be clearly laid out. And also, if you are going to do field work, then how the field layout design must be clearly stated, as brief as possible. Then also the laboratory methods we are going to use, we will have a summary of the laboratory methods and the statistical methods we are going to use to analyze the results. And what are the expected project impact? Here we must be able to clearly identify the immediate output. What are the immediate outputs from this study? And then what are the eventual outcome that is established that we are expecting? The short term and also the long term impact of this must be clearly seen in our concept notes. And now talking about budgets, our budgeting must be realistic, and also it must be tied to our methodology. For example, if you are using a multi-locational study and you are just looking at 2 locations, then you cannot. It must be reflected in the budget. If we'll be making a mistake to just say, okay, because the ceiling is 50 million, we are going to work towards 49 point something. We must be very realistic. If what we are working on, we just take about 20, let us limit our budget to that.
2 minutes.
You don't necessarily have to exhaust. If what you are working on does not warrant the end, I mean, having to spend 50 million, be very realistic about the budget, because eventually it could be used to screen out some of the proposals. Then, in terms of team.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Less than 2 minutes, sir.
Okay. I will summarize. In terms of team composition, we must select teams, members that are competent and also very multidisciplinary. And the responsibility of each member of the team must be clearly seen within the proposal. by their areas of study. Not that we just want to assist our friends, we just want to have some colleagues included. We make it as nationalistic and also multidisciplinary. And every member of the team must have a responsibility that can be seen even from their areas of discipline. These are some of the team areas that I want to point out that will help us in this proposal and the concept note development. I want to wish our colleagues success in this development. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Good morning.
Thank you very much, sir. So the next presenter, the only she, Professor K. Shoyibo. So thank you very much. So you have the time now.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm trying to share my slide. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm to speak on the concept note development, experiences from research and development in FSA, family nutrition and consumer sciences. I hope you can hear me clearly, sir.
Yes, yes.
Much has been said about the meaning of concept note. And I would also like to join my voice by saying it is the shortest expression of a research idea on the paper, which is submitted to a funder. And the main purpose is to gain the funder's attention and to start a discussion. I will leave that and go to some tips in developing a concept note, some tips to consider. Call for proposal worldwide by different agencies is highly competitive. The grant seeker should note that he is really going into competition, and we have to follow and satisfy the requirements of the funders. You place the requirement on the table and you work towards it. The grant seeker should not write to satisfy himself, but to satisfy the funder. The grant seeker should not overwhelm the readers with details, meaning that he has to go straight to the point. Summarize the content as acceptable as possible as acceptable. You should consider the audience. What I mean by the audience here is the donor. There's going to be a team that will review. So writing proposal may be for different donors, and it means if the opportunity arises to submit to another group, it may need revision, some revision. And also the grant seeker should consider the language. In some respect, the reviewers or assessor may not directly come from your field. They may be generalists, and so it may require that you minimize the use of jargon or technical terms so that it can be understandable to them. And the last thing to consider is appearance, is that appearance is important. Your paper depicts your image, I mean the concept note, depict your image. So you have to adhere to the specifications. Look at your typographical, look at your grammatical construction, the font size required, and so on and so forth. And there are some, in the past, people who have written so many concept notes and they were rejected for so many reasons that are not limited to the ones I listed. If the if the scope is too broad and there's no connection between the title and the content, that may lead to reject of one's concept note. If the research is not original, maybe the content contains little originality and no value addition. There's nothing novel, there's nothing new in your concept note. It may be rejected. When the executive summary is poorly written, that may also lead to reject of the concept note. The research objectives, when they are not well stated, and the methodology, they are inadequate, it is inadequate or unsatisfactory, or it is mundane. So those can lead to rejection of one's concept note. Also, when the content of the research proposal is shallow and don't really have good result, then it means the concept note may be rejected. And finally, outrageous budgets. Outrageous budgeting. Professor Ayinde, I've just spoken on that. We don't necessarily need to work towards the maximum. Let it be realistic and adequate, realistic and adequate for the research. Next is in my own department, because developing a concept note FNC peculiarities. My own department, that's supposed to be a faculty on its own, is made up of 5 units or 5 options. And these different options, together, we can put up a proposal. And as well, independently, we can also put up concept note. And 2 or 3 of the options can also come together to put up concept note or research proposal. Going by the structure of the NRF call for proposal, when it is title of proposed research, we have to make sure that our thematic area is matched with the proposed title. The title has to have bearing on the thematic area, and it has to be concise, informative, and distinctive. It has to be attractive so that when anybody sees it, he will be willing to even read the whole note. The background of the research has to tell us why it is crucial to address the problem identified and what has already been done to solve that problem, that is existing work that are related to the current proposal. Then our statement of problem has to be with evidence. The fact and data that support our argument has to be pointed out and has to be well annexed so that it could be acceptable to the donor. On the objectives of the research and the research questions, in my own field, we normally dwell on the objectives unless it is so required by either the donor or when it is publication by the journal that we include the research questions. but our objectives must be SMART objective, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-related, and have to be concise, clearly stated. Talking of literature review, as outlined by the NRF call for proposal, in family, nutrition, and consumer sciences, there are new and updated literature. And so we need to review literature that are relevant and that are updated.
Prof.
And, yes, sir.
Yes, so less than 2 minutes. Sir.
Okay, sir. And the theory has to be we have different theories that can be adopted, but it has to be the most related theory. Many may be related, but the most appropriate theory has to be adopted. And on the methodology, we made use of quantitative and qualitative research and experimental. What I mean is we carry out research through survey, and also we experiment. In nutrition and dietetics, they normally experiment with human beings. And so the cross of their research is intervention to really measure the impact at a later date. And so this calls for ethical consideration, and we need to seek ethical approval from the appropriate board. The expected results should be stated in concrete terms. That is the benefit both to the researcher, to the agency, to the institution, and to the beneficiaries, to the respondents. They have to be stated in concrete terms. And the innovation will have to be highlighted. What makes this present study different from the previous researches? What is it that is novel in this present study? And references that can be done as dictated by the funder, just like the NRF, the test fund of 18, required only 5 references. And in terms of research team, in my department, it is general research, cutting across all options. The principal investigator will come from the most relevant option to the research team. But if this is specialized in the specialized option, there are specializations within discipline. So the most relevant researcher will also be the principal officers. And we can also draw members from different options that are relevant to the present study.
So, kindly.
Yes. On the final note, the department has been able to write some proposals, and we have won some funding in the department in the recent time, and we hope to also the one we have submitted. We hope that it will be successful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Kishoyibo. We have Mama Bridge now. Professor Mitogun is next. Then we are going to take Professor Adeboye from his presentation after Professor Mitogun. So Professor Mitogun, you are on, ma. So 10 minutes. I think you are muted. I think you are muted, ma. Tosin, please unmute her.
You are muted, ma. Please unmute her.
Tosin, Is she unmuted?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
On my experience of R&D of writing proposals in the Department of Animal Sciences. And here, in my slides, can I have my slides? Who I shared. Do you have them, Prof?
You need to share from your end.
Okay, let me share. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please. I can't share my screen from my computer. Can you see me now?
You can't use two devices. That's the essence of the echoing.
Okay.
You are using two.
Sorry, I'm using my phone and my computer. So let me.
Okay.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm sorry because I'm just transferring my slides to the Zoom. So what I have is to share with you my experience in writing proposals in the department. And I have written my slides. I have sent my slides, Doctor. Can you show from there? Can you share from your end? It's a bit, my internet is a bit unstable. It's I waste time. Do you have it? Please. Sorry.
Stick to a device, ma'am, please. So stop the discussion, please.
Are you using two devices, ma'am?
Okay. Okay. You have it? Did you get it?
You mean the slides?
My connection is unstable, it says.
Okay.
Let me remove my other device. Okay. Well, if it doesn't work,
It's still not good.
just share
There is the audio.
To a grandma seal. And can you get me?
Yes, the audio is a little poor. The audio.
Yes, I'm sorry. Still echoing?
Yes, still echoing. Okay. Okay. Uh-oh. So there is a technical hitch. Okay. It's muted now. It's muted. So Tosin, how can you help? She's muted. Hello?
She's been unmuted.
Do I unmute myself?
Yes,
Okay.
you are now muted, ma.
All right, I have unmuted.
Yes.
Now, can I go on?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. I think my slides can be seen by everybody. And first, I would like to greet everyone. Thank you, Prof. Osani, for this opportunity. Thank you, Prof. Shunaya, for the wisdom you shared to us. Now, my researches have been local and international, and I have listed in my slide number 2 the local researches that I have written and the international. The last one, profiling of bovine, was written just recently during this lockdown with a student, a former student, Dr. Bamidele, and he is the principal investigator. And this is submitted to FLAIR, Royal Society UK. The one in red is what I want to talk about. So to share with you my experiences in writing a concept note before the proposal was approved. The next slide, please, will tell us how I won the grant. First, we saw the proposal, call for the proposals through the internet, and this proposal was to be done with Embrapa, the agricultural research organization in Brazil, and to be funded by BMGF, Bill and Melinda Gates, and managed by FARA in Ghana, our local Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, and in the US by IICA, and various partners. Now, this research objective is to enhance agricultural innovation Mariante told me that he's willing to collaborate. And so that's how we started. We wrote the concept note in the beginning. And the next slide will say how we started. First, we have to register. Then, of course, to follow the guidelines, strictly follow the guidelines. So the next slide will tell us the proposals. I mean, the guidelines for submission of the pre-proposal or concept note. They call it pre-proposal there. And it was really fast. We have to do it fast. So it was maybe in February 2013 when we wrote the proposal. By April, we have to submit the concept note. By April, we submitted and we're able to receive the go-ahead in May. So it was really fast. So the next slide will just tell you that how we went about it, following all the guidelines step by step. And looking at the slide, we noted that it's a proposal to be funded with $80,000 for a period of 2 years. And it will be assessed, the concept notes will be assessed based on the innovation, as you can see from the next slide, the project design, objectives, sustainability of impact, and growth potential. So in summary, we submitted the pre-proposal or concept note, and the secret of the success was based on the innovation, and will provide a gap to the body of knowledge, of course, enrich the cooperation between Brazil and Africa. So the selection process was also tough, although my collaborator in Brazil was very cooperative. And what was interesting was when we won the award, when we won the grant, the concept note was submitted. So I was asked to come to Brazil to receive in this picture, as you can see, and to have a face-to-face discussion with the proponents. And we wrote the proposal together face-to-face and discussed fully the proposal. It was a very good opportunity because the proposal will enable me to get 20,000 grant to buy some equipment for my laboratory to start a DNA fingerprinting lab in the department. And when the grant was awarded, of course, it's through the university. We have to submit the university's approval and the signing of MOU, as you can see in this. So the full proposal was developed too after the concept note was approved, okay? And it was just following the guidelines, item by item, definition of the problem, etc., to my methodology, expected project results, which would point out the potential impact, sustainability, innovation, growth potential, budget, not more than $80,000, and of course, other requirements. And of course, we were invited in Brazil to meet with our proponents and to send the samples to Brazil, and how we can send 2 PhD students also to Brazil. The 2 students are working on the project.
Hello, ma'am. Can I interrupt briefly, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Just briefly.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Very respectfully, we are seriously constrained by time. So are there very key take-home lessons on concept note development? What are the key take-home? We are really constrained by time, and the platform may switch off at the expiration of our timing. So what are the key take-home lessons for all of us developing concept notes?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I guess in my slide, I have one that says the secret of success of getting support from the donor, in this case, TED Fund, is to be able to be innovative and, of course, to provide a gap to the body of knowledge and to enrich the cooperation, okay? And I think we won a Step B grant in 2013, which is now TED Fund, and it is a project that I gave to one of my PhD students. And I think we were invited several times in Abuja to be able to rewrite and write and rewrite the concept notes. And thank be to God, the student has obtained a grant, about 3 million, and we were able to do a project. So I think the step of getting, hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, the secret of getting the grant or getting the concept note approved is to really have something that will be a breakthrough, especially in agriculture, that will have a significant impact to agricultural development of Nigeria. And that's how I got the grant from Brazil, because we did a work on characterization of chickens by molecular methods. And we were able to see that we have a wide diversity of chickens and that we can develop these chickens. And this was proven by Prof. Shunaya's project in ACGG, that our local chickens have a bit of potential. But I want to share also that how I began with the proposal, with the concept note, is discussion with colleagues, I think, in the department. My first effort was to discuss with Prof. Shunaya, who is our poultry expert in the department, and he said something about diseases, resistance to diseases. So that discussion now prompted me to develop a project that will characterize our local chickens, which are known to be resistant to diseases. And that's how I think my partner in Brazil was able to believe that we have some good gene bank or germplasm in Nigeria. So that's how he was able to see my idea. And that's how he developed with me the concept note. And by April that year, we were able to get a response that we can now go to the full proposal. And after that, discussing the plans and submitting the MOU signed by the Vice Chancellor. So the implementation was a bit difficult because a research of 2 years became a research of 4 to 5 years because of some hitches in the customs getting the DNA equipment. But
no problem. So we have
through that effort, we're able to get it.
So in less than 2 minutes, ma'am.
Just to end up, I just want to say that in my last 3 slides, I just want to say that we really have to follow the proposal, the guidelines, word by word, word for word, and be realistic with our budget. I think that's what that fund said. And we should be also aware that each part of our concept note will be graded or scored. That's why I put here in the last slide the scoring template made by our Office of Research, headed by Prof. Useni. So I think we have to keep on trying. That's what I should say. And discussing with our colleagues. I think that's how I benefited from the wise advice of people in my department.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. And thank you for the opportunity to share my experiences. And I can share them my slides.
Oh, thank you very much. We are really grateful.
Sorry for the.
Thank you. Thank you very much, man. We have the last presentation from Professor Osi Adebawuye for the CPP dimension. Prof, you are on, sir. Professor O.C. Prof, sir. Is Prof on? Tosin, or mute Prof.
Prof does not seem to be on the participant list, sir. Perhaps he's using the name of his phone. So you might need to start talking. I'll probably just unmute everyone.
Okay, yes. So,
Hello?
yes, we are hearing you.
Hello, Professor Oseni.
Yes, you are on, please.
Are you able to see my slide?
We need to put you on. What name did you use on your tag? What name did you use on your tag? Your name is not showing.
It's DVC. DVC is there. DVC ARIP. DVC ARIT.
DVC.
Tosin, can you get that?
Yes, I have, sir.
Okay, so mute everybody else, please.
DVC.
Unfortunately, hello?
We can hear you, sir.
You can hear me? Okay. Yeah, I'm not able to share this slide. I don't know what is wrong with it. But if everybody is able to hear me, I want to say good day to everybody. I'll be talking on a concept note from the perspective of crop protection, crop production and protection. I think the first thing I want to do is to talk about or to add value to what people from our very senior colleague, Professor Shunaya, up to the others, Professor Anyawale, Oyedele, and then Professor Omitogun have said about the issue of concept note. I want to add that concept note is the first product idea that is being presented to the markets. That is the grant word for buyers to buy from. And that is receiving a funding from the funding agency. So that is what it's all about. And it is the initial step of a scientist or a researcher tap the donor agency for funding. If the idea is interesting, you may be required or requested to submit a full proposal. I studied the TED Fund guideline, and I saw that there are 28 thematic areas in 3 categories. And I want to say, in addition to what others have said, that the task of a scientist is to mold and molder the concept note in such a manner that it draws the attention of the donor based on mutual interest. For this to happen, one has to know the mind of the funding agency. The first task of a scientist in writing concept note is for you to really peep spiritually into the mind of the funding agency so that you know what they want to read and you tailor whatever you are writing to that. So in doing that, you may have to access the internet sometimes and read about projects that had previously been funded by that funding agency so that you have an idea of what they are interested in. I want to talk about the title of a concept note, be it in agricultural economics, in extension, in crop science, in animal science, whatever field of endeavor, of human endeavor. The title sells a project on first approach. People who review proposals take interest in titles of projects. When the title is appealing, when it is compelling, the reviewer or the assessor is prompted to want to read what the project is all about. So when the title is muddled up, when it has no value, the project may have failed from the first sight. So we have to be conscious of that. So the title of a project must be as attractive as a ripe banana fruit without a stain. The title must be short and should reflect the overall idea of the project, and it must resonate with the donor's objective. This is not restrictive to TED Fund only, but to other calls that are placed by several donors. You must understand the core words, the major verbs, the major adjectives that are used in the call by the funder. And you should tailor your proposal towards those verbs and those adjectives. So you study the donor's previously funded project, as I said, the introduction and the background, same as what others have said before. But I want to add that for you to write a very good introduction or background to a study, either in form of a concept note or in terms of a research proposal, it is always good to cite part of your own previous works that you had done before, that will sell you as someone who has knowledge in the field that you want to investigate a subject. So the idea here is that the reviewer quickly goes to the reference list or quickly scans through the proposal and tries to see, does this man have expertise in this area? Has he ever done anything in this area? So this is a very important ingredient in proposal development. Also, there is the quantitative aspect of writing concept note. The quantitative aspect of it is that you must be talking in numbers, not just saying people will be educated, poverty will be reduced. The question is by how much people will be educated? How many? If how many ladies, how many women, how many men, how many inmates in the prisons will be educated? So you must be quantitative in the assessment of whatever you write in a proposal, especially in defending your proposal along the line of background and justification or introduction, then in the area of expected impacts of the project. So it must be quantitative. The goals and objectives of a project, there is, in some calls, there is what we call the general objective, and then we have the specific objectives. The general objective is just one. It encapsulates everything in a single statement, single sentence, short and pungent, of what the project seeks to achieve holistically on a global scale. And the other objectives, which we call the specific objectives, deal with specific activities in the methodology that they will achieve. And this must be measurable, and they must not be ambitious. Reasons that some proposals fail is because they think that the proposals are too ambitious. So we must try as much as possible to avoid being over ambitious in developing our proposals. So the specific objectives are usually 3 to 4 in number, and they derive from methodology. Team composition. We must stand the test of time in team composition. You must not include just your friends' names as part of your team. We almost had a project rejected because of that some time ago, because the assessor felt that we just included some names, but it is not true. But what I'm trying to say is that you must justify what each person wants to do in a particular project in terms of a team composition. The budget must be realistic. And as other speakers said, it must be something that answers the question of value for money. The question is, if you say you want to use 50 million to train 100 farmers, people will now say, let's distribute the money, 50 million to 1,000 farmers. Each person will receive 50,000 naira. And that's a lot of money for the farmers. So we really have to establish the concept of value for money in our budgeting. And then we don't put outrageous numbers under some budget headings. Expected results must be as pungent as possible and must be tailored towards the objectives of the project in tandem with the methodology of the project. And also, this must be quantitative. You must be talking in numbers. Number of people that will be trained, number of people that will be sent to school, number of latrines that will be dug, number of chickens that will be produced, number of goats that will be raised, and so on and so on. In terms of number, quantitatively, it plays a big role. Innovation. Innovation is another aspect of concept note writing. It tells people what is different in this thing you want to do. What are you saying that is different? How do you want to convince us that you have something to contribute? And how do you want to tell us that this idea that you are presenting is in tandem with the development objective of the funders? So you really have to establish a very innovative idea, one or two, that you want to sell to the funding agency. And I conclude by telling you some of my experiences. My dear colleagues, I have come to realize that out of 10 concept notes that I write, I get only one funded. That is 1 out of 10. So don't be discouraged. If you receive "I regret" letter, always continue to try. 2, I want to state that Nobel laureates, Nobel Prize winners, also have their scientific papers rejected by journals. Journals reject papers written by Nobel laureates. So we have to keep struggling. And sometimes, this is a very important one. Some ideas are very good. They are very big ideas, very novel ideas. But because of the volume of funding that you want to apply for, you may not be able to get the fund on your own. So sometimes you need a big name as your team member to win some grants. Some funding agencies, when they see some particular names, they put up some respect. And sometimes it's not a guarantee, but sometimes it helps when you are asking for big funding. And lastly, it is good not to consider oneself as an island. Let a second person with good experience read your concept note or your proposal or your paper. Your best may not be enough, especially in terms of content and grammar. Sometimes, when you are reading a statement alone by yourself, you will be reading the same thing. But when another person reads it, you may see that you are missing article "the" somewhere, or the pronoun "they" somewhere. So it is very, very important to work along these lines. I want to thank you, the faculty, for giving me this opportunity to talk on this subject. Thank you, sir.
Very much. We want to appreciate all our presenters, starting from Professor E.B. Shonaya. Very warm appreciation. Professor E.B. Ayonwale, very grateful, sir. Professor Usi Adibaoye, we are grateful. Professor E.J. Farinde, Professor Oyedele, Professor Shiribo, Professor Mrs. Tomitogun. Thank you very much on behalf of the Dean and the faculty. So we have question time now. So we need to send our questions as soon as possible so that we round up. For some questions trickled in, but before then, there is a quick clarification. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a quick clarification from one of the presentations that sustainability and risks are part of the proposals or requirements for NRF, just like the global ones. For example, the template of the full proposal has a whole section on sustainability, as well as a whole section on risks or risk mitigation. So I want us to note that. So questions. The first question that came, somebody mentioned that what makes a research topic national? Okay, that set of questions went off the screen when light went off. So what the coinage was, what makes a study national? And then there was the second question about competence. So let's start with the first one. So can I call Professor Oyedele to address the first one? What makes a research topic national? Because your presentation echoed aspects of this question. Professor Oyedele. Hello, sir. Okay, any volunteer among the resource persons?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I think part of what makes a concept note or proposal a national one is consideration of the national interest. Because NRF is about development of the people and the nation, economic growth. So our team must be able to address the national interest in Nigeria. And secondly, Nigeria is part of the global village, and we are also signatory to the UN on the Sustainable Development Goal. So our team was able to address either 1 or 2 or 3 of the Sustainable Development Goal. Number 3, when we constitute our research team, we must make it and national, not restricted to a state or a local government or a region. We have 6 administrative zones in Nigeria. It may not be possible for us to pick researchers from all these zones, but either 1 or 2 additional to researchers in our university, and not your department alone, but across faculties in the universities. With those 3 aspects, I think our concept note or proposal will be of national status. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A question came up now.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
This Professor Ayinde.
Yes, sir. Go on.
I had to switch to my phone because we have a power outage here. According to what Professor Ayinde has said, nationality, a project being national, is a function of the we key. We identify the national goals. National goals. For example, we can read the ERGP program program of the federal government of Nigeria, or the national agricultural development goals. Then we identify areas there where we can key into. We must align some of these, what we are doing with some of these goals. That makes it national. Then also our team selection also makes it, if we must not limit our team to our locality alone. We select members from other universities. These are also something that can make it national. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have a question from a colleague, I think from IAR&T, and I want Professor O.C. to address this. There are some funding agencies that usually ask speakers to write on risk evaluation and monitoring and evaluation. How can this be done justifiably? Professor O.C.
Thank you very much, the coordinator. Yeah, risk assessment is it's like asking the proponent of the proposal to state what are those factors that are likely to work against the implementation of the project, to impede, that could serve as hindrances to the implementation of the project. And one of those things that quickly come to mind is that we look at the macroeconomic situation of Nigeria, and then the social and macroeconomic situation of Nigeria. For example, we want to conduct a study that covers southwest and northeastern zone of Nigeria. And you know that you have Boko Haram problem in the northeastern part of Nigeria. So you have to honestly state that in the southern part of Nigeria, there is no problem of Boko Haram, so mobility is not limited. Whereas in the northeastern part of Nigeria, the risk to life as a result of moving around is there. How do you mitigate this? Because when you give information on risk, you must give information on mitigation. How are you going to work against that becoming a negative factor for the implementation of the project? And then what you can say there is, okay, we know that this problem is in the northeastern part of Nigeria. We will ensure that we secure as much police escort as possible to follow researchers. Or, at best, we will select the safe location in that part of the country. Or you can, if you are to plant something, for example, you want to work on maize and you want to plant maize, you can talk about the problem of climate change, that it is expected that climate change is likely to influence how rainfall pattern will be in the year that this project will run. Therefore, the project will hire a climatologist who will be able to predict accurately the weather situation, and therefore planting can take place at a time when rains will not fall. So these are the factors, some of the factors.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. There's a quick question here. Is it advisable, is it pardonable if the specified maximum number of words in a concept note is exceeded? And I'm going to address that. I say it is a capital offense. Part of the discipline in writing is compliance. So the rules are stated. If you have 100 rules, you have 100% compliance. So you really must adapt the concept note to be very compliant, including word count. Okay. The next question says, is it advisable to submit the same proposal to different funding agencies? Okay. Now, can I call on our father, Professor Shonaya, please? Hello, sir. This is an ethical issue now. Prof, sir. Professor Shonaya.
Yes, hello.
Can you hear me, sir?
I can.
There is a question on ethics. Is it advisable? Okay, please go ahead, sir.
I had a question, and the question I think needs to be put in context. If you submitted a proposal to a funding agency and it is funded, you are not expected to submit the same proposal to another funding agency. But if you submit the proposal and it is not funded, then you can submit it to another funding agency. So it is then moral that if you are submitting the same proposal to two agencies to fund, that is corruption. And it is a very serious offense. But what you can do is, if you have a proposal and the funding agency decides to fund a part of it, you can then take out the part that is not funded and write it up properly and submit to another agency. And if your proposal is so huge that you have 5 or more parts, you can then develop each of the parts for different agencies. Okay.
Thank you very much for that, sir. Very good. Can we select non-nationals from foreign universities to be part of the research team of TED Fund? I think this question was raised before. That can non-nationals be included? I think the answer was yes, so long as the financial obligation does not cover vacation trips to Orlando or Las Vegas. I think that was part of the answer provided. So long as they can pull their weight and add a lot of value to the research, that it is not an avenue to boost the, what you call the field, the transportation, there's an item, budget item on travels. So that was what was found out. And again, I refer us to the 112-page document by TED Fund that covered all these and other auxiliary areas. Is it allowed to include colleagues? Okay. Is it allowed to include colleagues from outside Nigeria? Okay, that was mentioned. Okay, they are related. So any other questions so that we can round up? Are there other burning issues that any of the presenters or anybody wants to raise that can be addressed? Any burning issue? Resource persons, Professor Yonwale, any burning issue? Professor Mitogun, as we await more questions.
Processing.
Yes, sir.
I have an advice.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
let's have Professor. It's a concept note that was not approved.
Yeah, I give it to you.
Can we resubmit?
Let her go on.
Continue, ma'am.
Go on, Professor Mitogun. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask Prof about a concept note that was not approved last year. Can we resubmit? And can TED Fund, can COR tell us why it was not approved so that we can know where we can improve the proposal? Yes.
Thank you very much. To quickly respond, this was raised at the OAU-wide or system-wide webinar 2 weeks ago. And part of my contribution then was that TED Fund National should collate all the reasons for each proposal that were not accepted or that were rejected? What were the reasons? Reasons were provided. There was some rational basis for acceptance or rejection. Acceptance on the basis of some strength, rejection on the basis of some weaknesses. And my arguments and proposal then was that TEDFund could collate such arguments and give feedback to each applicant. And then to your second question, Mark, about a previous submission, I think yes, it can be repackaged for resubmission, just like what Professor Shunaya said, that if a proposal was turned down, that cannot be the end of the proposal. And I think this is a lesson for many of us. No, for those who apply for grants, we almost will have a sackload of rejected proposals. They are not useless. So from what Professor Shunaya said, this can be repackaged. They are like gold mines that could be repackaged for resubmission. I hope that answers your question. Now, Professor Shunaya, you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Prof. I wanted to advise.
Thank you.
I wanted to advise my colleagues that it is very, very important to pay attention to revising what we have written. I don't know if it happens to everybody else, but when I send out emails and I get a reply, I now see that I've made so many mistakes in typing. And I think it's the same even with WhatsApp messages. Now, if there are too many mistakes in your proposal, they will tell against you. And so I advise everyone to please proof and proof and proof again. And I think it was Professor Adeboye that suggested, get somebody else who is not emotionally attached to the proposal to look at the grammar, at the spelling, and so on. Those things you may not see because you are so connected with it. But when somebody who is, he said, can't you see there is a mistake here? There is a comma, there is a full stop, and so on. So I encourage us to please do that. It will help the chances of our being successful. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. So we're gradually rounding up now. So we are calling for take-home lessons or parting shots. Okay. Any of the resource persons, anybody in the house that could give us one or two. We have our colleagues from IAR&T. We have colleagues from LAUTECH that are also with us. We acknowledge your presence. So any of the resource persons, just like what Professor Shunaya did now. Professor Ayonwale, any parting shots?
Can I give one? Oh.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, Professor.
Yeah, the pattern one is that for every proposal, it is good to marry your idea with the local, the state, the national, the regional, and the global policy documents. They help a lot. When you have an idea that is not likely in tandem with either of the local, regional, national, or global policy situations, then it's not likely to fly. So as you're arguing along the line of your thought, always try to marry these policies together and cite them copiously in the write-up so that readers and assessors will know that what you are doing is not in isolation. It is in tandem with what they are discussing globally. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for that. We have a few quick questions here. I wish to have access to your power presentations. I hope the resource persons will provide all the presentations for sharing. How do we get ethical approval for our proposals? We have an ethical committee that does that for OAU, but there is a payment for it. But graciously, they allow payment when your proposal comes through. So we have a whole unit of the university under the Institute of Public Health for that, and TEDFund office links up with them. Okay. Is there a section in NRF note where duration of the proposal study can be indicated? Under the methodology, yes, it can be indicated there. More details are in the full proposal. the concept note is constrained by volume, meaning that there is so much information that could be included. But then even for this concept note, we can still specify the duration. But the full proposal has so much space for that. Okay. Any other burning questions? So we have within the next 5 minutes to round up. So the dean, sir. Dean of Agric. Vice Dean.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, sir. I want to appreciate all the resource persons and all our faculty members for actively participating in this webinar. You know, all the questions that have been raised show that people are really paying rapt attention. And I believe if we take seriously to all that has been discussed on this forum, most of our concept notes will fly and we will get to write full proposals very shortly. I want to appreciate everybody once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we want to, with the permission of the dean, draw the curtains now. I wish all of us the best in our concept notes and in the full proposal, and a stronger, richer, virile, and very, very academic faculty. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best.
But I hope it's there on the